Welcome, reanimated fans. This is H.A. Conrad coming to you from Brooklyn. Here, as always, my favorite intrepid co host, Stuart Tiffin. Hello, Stuart.
Zippity doodah, H.A. Conrad.
Today, we are talking about The Silent Zone, which is a Hungarian zombie film. But before we get that, we actually have a few really cool news items or exciting news items. At least I'm excited about it. First up is the Marvel Zombies season two. I think we knew it was already confirmed, but really, really confirmed. And they've got, the voice actors and everybody all like that whole lineup with, Paul Rudd, Florence Pugh, just like a lot of people coming back to do this. And, I do think that some of these animated shows, sometimes it's easier for people to fit that into their schedule. So they have a pretty star-studded cast for sure. And I'm excited to see this. Are you?
Absolutely. I'm really just hoping that this one doesn't have like a 3-year gestation period because I think what they were waiting on last time was the MCU kind of to get its act together after the writer's strike and all the things that kind of threw everything out of whack also had a knock-on effect to this show because it seriously sat in like the in limbo for a couple years. I think it takes a long time to do animation, so this will take some time, but hopefully it will go faster than season one.
It sounded like it was. I mean, it did sound like it was moving along a little faster. So I'm hopeful that we will get to see this sooner rather than later and just continue on with this story. And speaking of continuations, although I think is it a prequel? But the director of Train to Busan, or the filmmaker, Yon Sang-ho, Colony is going to be premiering at the Cannes Film Festival in May. So this is really exciting. I think we've all been anticipating this, and the only thing that would make me happier would be more Kingdom continuation. But are you excited about this? It looks
Oh yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah, it's
And
going to
this
be like
is,
a zombie outbreak in a building, like a sealed environment,
yep.
so it's going to be pretty contained as a plot device. Is the idea. But then he's in the interview, he's talking about how these are different sorts of zombies. I don't think this is the same world as Train to
Yeah,
Busan.
it doesn't sound like it, and I was hoping it was the same world, but I don't think it is. I think it's supposed to just be a new kind of
It,
zombie idea,
yeah.
and really showing the sort of the first like kind of stages and how everything just blows up essentially. So,
Yeah. And it looks like it's got the sort of ingredients that you would expect from his plots, which is the real monsters are the humans. Love it.
yeah, of course, of course. So very excited to see this. And so we will definitely keep tabs on when this is coming out. I suspect though it might be a little longer for international distribution after premieres, but sometimes they're pretty quick with it, depending on how it's received. And I certainly think that there is an appetite, so to speak, for this.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they have people champing at the bit to be able to see this. So really excited to see this when we're allowed to watch it. And of course, we will review it. I think it will have a theater run, don't you?
I feel like high profile Korean projects deserve them. If they don't get them, I would be really surprised. That market has proven to be strong enough in the United States that I wouldn't be surprised if they got it.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe they do a limited theater run. I mean, I could see this being obviously at some of the theaters around me, like Nighthawk or Alamo. But maybe it'll make it to you too, Stuart. We'll keep our fingers crossed on that front. And in other continuations, there was a whole Vancouver was shut down for The Last of Us. So that's pretty for their filming, and always get excited to see that. And I think making very good use of the Vancouver streets. Um, but there were some stills and things like that, but I
Yeah.
don't know. Just always, I get excited when I see Last of Us news.
Oh,
So
yeah, for sure. Like this is great progress. They're like they did for season two. They are using Vancouver streets to simulate in Seattle. and they're talking about like, oh, military convoys in Vancouver on streets that are like covered in moss. And so yeah, this is more of the wolves paramilitary sort of thing going on in Seattle, and just happy that they're working on it. Maybe this means we'll get to see it in 2027. What do you think?
Maybe, maybe. I think we might. It seems early enough that we could that could be a possibility for sure. So, and then you had a couple of game updates. So
Yeah.
go for it because this is your wheelhouse and not mine.
Yeah. So State of Decay 3 got kind of a big update. It had been like a year of radio silence on that game. State of Decay 3 famously is a game where you kind of build colonies in the zombie apocalypse. And it was when those came out, each of the previous two games came out. They've been met pretty excitedly. Uh, yeah, you build up your survivor colony, you build up the colony itself, and you try to survive against a zombie outbreak and plague. And in this, so the announcement that they just made was that they're opening up a an alpha playtest, so you can sign up to play an earlier build of the game now, which means that they are moving right along. I would anticipate that this game could also come out potentially in this year, but probably more likely is 2027.
Well,
But
that's
yeah,
cool.
so State of Decay 3 moving right along. It looks good. I've never finished one of their games because they're quite challenging, but they do have a really robust online community, and a lot of streamers play it on extra super hard level, and you can watch a lot of that gameplay online. And then the other one was God Save Birmingham, which there's a article, I think it was on IGN, about it, and they're talking about how they're basically going to build the medieval version of the city of Birmingham for the game. And that was why they chose Birmingham. It's a Korean developer, I think, too. So it's quite funny that they are like, let's go to medieval England for this. But they chose Birmingham because it's kind of like a, B or C tier city in England. So not as big as a London. And apparently they were looking at Paris, they were looking at London, and they went, let's find the Calais of England or whatever. And
Yeah.
so they're gonna recreate Birmingham for the game.
Hmm.
Huge undertaking, like massive. And then the gameplay trailers that have dropped in the last month, it was at PAX East. I think some people got to get some hands on,
Hmm.
and it just looks like it's come a long way. The first trailer we saw was quite linear and almost like cinematic, and this one feels a lot more like gameplay.
Hmm.
It's still super brutal. I don't know if you watched any of the footage, HA, but it's just so much blood and
Oh, I did.
decapitations. Yeah.
I was going to say there was like a lot of attention paid to heads exploding or
Yes.
just making sure, and then the sound effect that went with that, and it was multiple times within the trailer. So I was like, all right,
Yeah.
you know,
Pretty exciting stuff. So anyway, I don't know that I saw a release date, but the fact that they're showing it off at PAX East means that it's pretty close to being cooked. So I think maybe also late this year, early next year, we could see this game coming out. I mean, obviously building a whole city, that's gonna, yeah, that could mean complications, but I'm hopeful. So God Save Birmingham. And when I watched that gameplay, I thought to myself, where is the Will Poulter Rapture movie, which is a film set in medieval England about the zombie apocalypse? And so I tried to find anything new, and there hasn't been anything since a couple of Deadline articles last year. That can happen, but it also, I just want to see like little tidbits that say it's still happening.
all right,
That's
well,
more of a no news update, but
yeah, but still, I'll send out good vibes for your sake for sure,
for all of our sakes.
for all of our sakes. Um, all right, well. I think we are now on like ready to talk about our review this week, which is Silent Zone, which came out in 2025. And this is a Hungarian zombie film. All locations were around Budapest and I think maybe like a little further afield, but mostly on location. And we'll talk about that and
I mean, it
about
wasn't filmed in the US of A.
it definitely was not.
It's set in the USA though, so that's kind of important to point out. Like this all Hungarian film, except with the actor, some of the actors. Um, set on the East Coast of the United States, but
Yes.
definitely you can tell that it's not.
You can tell that it's not. It's very clear it's not. So that is one thing. And it had, what the director and the filmmaker said was, they deliberately were trying to keep budget costs down. So this is directed by Peter Deek and co-written by Victor Sack and Christian Iles. And this is, the main sort of cast members. There's only about like five people or six people. So mainly Matt DeVere and Luca Papp, and then sort of support with Nicolette Barabas, Declan Hannigan, and Alexis Latham. But the two main people are Matt DeVere and Luca Papp. So, you know, I, like they really, there was like a real effort made, just like this whole cast, including all the extras. Apparently, they only had 30 days to shoot this, which is a pretty tight
No
turnaround for any film.
wonder they
But
seem so tired.
right. Well, but apparently 3 months beforehand, like starting at that 3 months before they start shooting, everybody went through extensive stunt training. So they basically had the actors doing their own stunts and choreography and in an effort to keep the budget down. So, in addition to the actual like filming, the actors certainly were dedicated and, um, you know, actively involved in trying to make sure that this movie was successful. It was deliberately, made as a low budget horror film. And so we can talk about some of that, but a lot of practical effects, practical makeup, no real CGI, maybe a little bit at the end, I think. But for the most part, everything was just like, old school.
I'm thinking about now that you mentioned that they did their own stunts. I mean, there were a list of stunt people who were in the film too, but I think they were mostly zombies they were playing against. Like you can tell, but I don't think in a bad way that they were doing their own stunts.
Yeah.
It felt kind of gritty, and it felt like they weren't giving us convenient cuts or a shot from the back of the head scenes where people were fighting. You could tell that it was our leads doing their stunts.
Right. I mean, and I think one of the ways you could kind of tell, and it was interesting some of the choices made, but one of the ways you could kind of tell is that the choreography was a little slower,
It was a
which
little basic,
a
but
little basic. And like, look, you sometimes see them speed things up so that it looks a little bit
yeah.
more, like urgent. But there was definitely moments in this where it's like, okay, that's taking a really long time for like it was just sort of like did not feel as natural, so a little choppy for sure. But I get it, and it wasn't necessarily like bad. It just wasn't what I think sometimes when you expect to go and see these types of films. But I think you have to put it into the context of the type of film this is, which is like a low budget horror film for sure.
Yeah.
So, um,
Let's talk about these cast members. So the two stars are Matt DeVere as Cassius and Luca Pop as Abigail. When she's older, is most of the film is when she's a
mhm.
teen. And I thought that they both were pretty good. Matt DeVere kind of gives me Dave Bautista sort of
Yeah,
vibes.
he definitely has that thing going on for sure.
Maybe a little slightly less charismatic version of Dave
Yeah,
Bautista.
yeah, he's a bit one note for sure.
And
Um,
I don't know what it was about Abigail, but she reminded me of a girl version of Ralph Macchio in The Karate Kid.
she kind of did, and I think part of it she like is just like, and I actually liked this about it is that she was kind of at that awkward stage, like a slightly awkward stage. So I think she's supposed to be around 16-ish,
Yeah,
15-ish.
I would say because when she, at the beginning of the film, that girl is no older than 6 or 7. Yeah,
Yeah. So I actually liked this, and I thought Luca Pop pulled this off really well. That sort of middle ground between becoming like a you're like teenager and going to become an adult, but you're living in this really intense and terrifying world. So I really actually thought that they had a pretty good rapport. And I liked that idea behind
yeah.
this film. But I think there could have also been, one of the things that I do think fell short was the script, and definitely there was a lot of focus because I we can talk about the locations. There were some really cool locations in this, but it was to me it almost felt like, oh, we're gonna film in these cool locations and we don't want to cut anything out, so we're gonna just keep it all in.
Oh,
And
yeah, right away. Like this movie was 2 hours long. It
it
sure
did
should not have
not.
been.
It did not need to be. And I think some of that could have been used to build more between the characters and to build so that it was a little
Yeah.
bit more grounded and
Make it an hour and 35 minutes long and use those 5 minutes of, above 90 to just build character development.
right.
Yeah.
Um so but I mean it started out in that kind of a it started out in a good way in any case. But Luca Pop, she's actually like um you know, she grew up in the Midwest, but her parents are Hungarian. So
Okay, I
that,
was wondering about her English
yep.
and interesting.
Yeah, so she grew up in a small town in the Midwest. And so that's kind of I thought that was kind of cool that she got to go and do this film that was filmed in Budapest. So,
And I don't know how common the last name of Pop Papp is, but there was another Pop in the in the stuntmen or
hmm.
stunt performer section of the credits. So maybe it was
Okay.
a bit of a family affair. There were several people with the same last name in the stunt in the stunt performer section.
Yeah, and I mean she's been in a few things. She was in Dune, Prophecy, and so she's getting like roles in different kinds of things. So,
Mhm.
and lots of commercial work. I actually think I've seen her in like print ads possibly. So so I thought she was a good choice for this for sure.
Yeah. And Matt
Um,
Devere similarly has done a lot of work, but some smaller roles. I think this is maybe
yeah,
his only lead role, but
yeah, he's definitely been in like small roles and a lot.
he's done a lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah.
And those two, I think, did a pretty good job of anchoring the film as the duo that we know that they care about each other. We know that it's not a weird, creepy sort of care about each other. So thank you, movie, for keeping it
Yes,
cool.
I admit I had a moment where I was like, "Oh no, I hope this doesn't go into a very but they
Yeah,
did not."
in the third act, they start to sexualize her a little bit, and I'm just like, oh, I don't want that plot.
Right. And I was glad that they didn't go there. It actually, what it really gave me was Commando vibes with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Alyssa
Yeah,
Milano,
Alyssa Milano's greatest
right?
role.
Right. It kind of gave me that from the beginning. I was like, "All right, I
Yeah,
could."
well, they're actually father and daughter in that film.
They are, but that's kind of the vibe I
Yeah.
was feeling here.
But then balancing them out, I thought were two other really good, yeah, really good performances from Declan Hannigan, who
Hannigan,
plays
yep.
David, and I liked his story. I liked his arc. I thought it kind of went in slightly in a way that I wasn't necessarily seeing it go in the third act. And then playing pregnant Megan was Nicolette Barabbas, and she also did a good job and had like some pretty serious dialogue moments with Matt Devere, which is when and those scenes are where he gets to kind of like stretch his legs a little bit as an actor, I felt like. So those it was weird how they had a couple of pretty intense scenes together, not as romantically linked people either. But I don't know, like those I thought worked pretty well in terms of the performances.
Yeah, for sure. And I liked that dynamic when they all got together. I thought that was actually pretty good. And it did stir things up a bit, and you kind of, that actually kind of needed it, some of that dynamic, and to see a little bit more in those characters. So I thought that was pretty well done in
Yeah.
terms of um, the idea of the character and the conflicts between the characters. So
You've already mentioned the locations that they shot this on, and it was definitely giving me flashbacks of having spent time in a former Soviet Union country, and that's definitely what this feels like.
yeah,
It's all these like abandoned factories and bunkers and
train
uh,
stations.
trains, lots of train stations and apartment buildings. It feels like we're in Chernobyl,
Yeah,
parts
it
of it,
really did.
or
I was like,
Pripyat.
oh. For a moment, I was like, I really hope they were in healthy places when
Testing
I
for
saw this.
radiation.
Yeah.
Yeah, like so they just the movie goes from one of these locations to the next. And I guess because it's supposed to be 10 years after the zombie apocalypse by the time we're in that part of the tale. So it makes sense. But it definitely it really, really reads as former Soviet Union country, not as Delaware or wherever the hell they're supposed to be. Actually,
Yeah.
Delaware, maybe it could feel like that.
Oh, nice. Don't slam on Delaware.
I've never even been. Sorry, Delaware. Apologies. But so this movie opens with a news broadcast, like a news montage, followed by some pretty brutal for opening act sort of stuff that happens with Abigail's family. What did you think of all this?
The opening act with her family.
Yeah, like
Um,
her as a ch young child and kind of what's happening. She's not the first character we meet. It's her little brother and then her
yeah.
mom and then or her and her mom and her
Well,
dad.
I have to say, so the beginning of this, I actually thought maybe the mom was just going to leave him behind. There was like this moment where the kid, that was like actually a really clever thing because you see somebody prepping in the background, he's watching cartoons, and there's obviously things happening. We know what's going on because we watch zombie movies all the time. So I thought either she was going to get taken out or forget them or be in a panic. But no, they didn't go there. And I guess we introduce Abigail here as well, and we get a lot wrapped up into this moment. This is the part where I thought was a little bit clunky because we have newscast with, the talk of the feral outbreak. We have a very, and later it becomes clear why, but we have a very choppy call with Abigail's father, and you can't see him very well in this. And I was like, why are they doing that? That seems like an odd choice. And then later I was like, oh. Um, but they're looking to escape, but it just seems to be taking them a really long time. It looks like she's been packing that car forever and then suddenly decides that they're going to escape, and the mother, that is. And I, you know, I would imagine that if you were in this situation, yes, you would be incredibly panicked, but it also feels like there's such urgency. I don't know that you had been like sort of leaving your car doors open, and I don't know, it just felt a little too convenient in terms of how this was set up. And that's a little bit of how the most of this film goes. It's like convenient mistakes that people make that just make it just unrealistic to me
Yeah,
that people in this situation would be dealing with this. But then
you
once
can
they get,
imagine that this mother has just waited too long to leave,
maybe.
like waiting for her husband to get home, waiting to maybe hopefully think, oh, it might not make it to our neighborhood. And now that it's here, these are fast zombies. They are thinking zombies. I don't disagree with this film that they basically didn't have a chance.
Oh, I'm not arguing that at all, and I'm fine with that. It just felt like this is the one thing I noticed just with the editing and the sequence. It took them a really long time to get to the car, and then they really start the action, but it just feels, she looks back a bunch of times and kind of hears something upstairs, and this seems to be like a theme within it. They hit you over the head with what they're, which takes away from the tension. They hit you over the head with the ideas that they're, and it's almost like they were trying to get in that extra little like thing to build the scene. And in fact, I think it takes away a little bit.
Mm.
So, the part I'm talking about is when she says like five times, get into the car. And, there's definitely a world where the kids would not get into the car, but they don't really show that. They just do these slow pans about, you know, looking at the photos or like hearing the noise upstairs. And it just doesn't feel, it doesn't, it takes, to me, it takes away from the tension. Whereas if you jump right into it and go right to the point where they're just walking out to the car and get, basically taken out, I thought that that was really successful once they get out to the car. But it just took, to me, it dragged a lot in this beginning part. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just too critical, Stuart.
Maybe,
Totally
maybe
possible.
so, maybe not. What is brutal to me about this though is yeah, mom and brother both get attacked. There's even a shot of a zombie eating little boy uh Abigail's brother, like the real actor. And as they and then the zombie's going to come and eat little girl Abigail when Cassius enters the scene. What he's doing there, why I mean, it turns out that he's quite gruff most of the movie, but he does actually explain that he's tried to save like a dozen people over the course of
Yeah, he's
his
had a rough
zombie
go of
life,
it.
and he hasn't really managed to save anybody except Abigail up to this point. That's like a third act sort of revelation. But so it's not surprising in retrospect that he's there trying to help and save Abigail and maybe even her mom and her brother if he'd gotten there a bit faster. But he shows up, saves them or saves her, and then has to shoot the mom who is reanimated as a zombie, and then shoot the brother who is reanimating as a zombie. And he does it in a compassionate way. He's telling Abigail, like, close your eyes, cover your ears. So like
Yeah.
it's brutal, but at least we're being introduced to this caretaker character of Cassius
Yeah.
as a good guy.
Yeah, and one thing that I did get confused by was why the zombie that took or the feral that took out the mom just kind of looks at he took at the son, the brother and the mom, and then he sees Abigail under the truck and then runs away. Like that felt weird. But anyway, and it leaves it, we see that the mother turns really, really quickly. I would say they are very uneven in how they apply how quickly people turn in this film.
Well, it's something to do with
Um,
hitting an artery, is how they explain it.
Yeah, but there's definitely the weird teeth zombie later, which was very clearly
Were
bitten.
those
And
his real teeth?
is it?
Are they?
I don't know.
How could we tell, I
I
guess?
don't know. But I mean, he's taken many bites and really direct bites and takes like a really long time to turn. But anyway, back to. But we see I like how we see the transformation. They do that really quickly. You see how fast it is. And then Cassius comes in and how brutal that is that she has to watch that happen. Although he does try to shield her from what happens to her brother for sure, what he has to do. And that just establishes their first interaction and relationship. And I liked that that's all they do. And then they fast forward 10 years. I thought that that was actually really well done. So.
Yeah.
Um, and
And
then, of course, it makes sense to be in the completely torn down world of wherever they were shooting at that point. So,
from here on out, it's just we're in the woods or we're in some factory that shut down 30 years ago.
right.
Yeah, and so we find our heroes again in the quote unquote present day. Abigail is now a teen, and but she and Cassius are dressed kind of funnily, like hilariously
Alike.
alike. Yeah, tactical vests, no sleeves, cargo pants, and like festooned with weapons.
Hmm.
They both have sniper rifles. They both have swords over their shoulders. At this point, they have horses, but do we see them ride those horses? I think we do.
We do.
Yeah, we do later. Um, but they're like killing deer, uh, and showing that they are traumatized by the way that they're living because we have some shots of Abigail freaking out when she hears things and like pointing her gun in various directions. And then we have their camp scene where we get to learn about some of their motivation, which is to what are they doing? Are they trying to collect seeds and then going to a farm off the coast of?
Yeah. I mean, they're gathering supplies to be able to go to this island, which is supposedly safer. And I guess you could say, even if there were ferals on the island, you could clear it. Though there's some implication that there's nobody there. So, and their idea is that they're going to farm and just have a peaceful oasis and don't have to wander around in this world. I guess my question about all of this is why it took 10 years to do this. I guess maybe you're trying to see if maybe there's some community you might be able to join, and they do talk about that later. But it, you know, this is their plan, and it's not totally clear what they're waiting for in terms of gathering the things that they need to gather. So I wish they would lay out the things that they really needed. It's just this sort of vague, we need to get supplies, right?
Yeah,
So,
I thought it was like literal seeds to like
Yeah,
plant.
they do want seeds for agriculture for sure.
So what kind of is interesting about the end of the film is they're still planning to go to the island, but I don't think that they have any seeds. Like
Oh,
I
they
don't
do
think they have
not.
any of their supplies that
They have
they'd
nothing.
been scrabbling together. But so that's their goal. That's the goal of the film. We can assume that that's what they're going to be trying to attain throughout the story. Um, what we what we do see though is that he's making her do homework, which I thought was kind of cool. We don't see anything else,
Yeah.
no other nods to that the rest of the film, but
No.
that's like just a nice bit of development that he's trying to make her. He's homeschooling her out in
Yeah.
in the woods. She's more interested in drawing pictures, but um, typical kind of dad teen stuff. We have then like a montage. Well, there's a zombie that comes that night, and he's like, that could be a scout for this group of feral zombies that we are aware of on some level, and now it's time to go. And so we have a montage of them traveling on horseback and practicing self-defense, like fighting skills. This is cool development for this first part of the film, I
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah. Although I do have to say, one of the things that just, again, just drove me crazy, it's like they set up a whole, kind of early alert system. It doesn't seem to be far enough away that if these things were moving that fast, that that would be helpful to you.
Well, this is like just like the Dead, right? Where the
Right.
perimeter with the bell with the can on it is
Like,
2 feet away from where you're sleeping. It's not going to
right.
help. In this case, so it worked out because the zombie that tripped it theoretically left the camp and then came back, right?
Right.
Like
That's
because
true.
when he shows up, he's not close by. He is
That's
off in
true.
the woods somewhere, and then shit runs up
Yeah.
to Cassius. So that didn't make a ton of sense, but you know what? It was conveniently it worked. So that brings us to this scene at the quarry because they hear an explosion and then they ride their horses over to a quarry. And I like the way that this unfolds, kind of the whole thing. It's their one interaction with a group of, or it's their first interaction with a large group of people, of survivors. But also before we get to that, um, it's showing Abigail taking unilateral kind of choices that have implications.
Mm.
And she accidentally shoots one of the survivors. Uh, like, yeah, she could have shot that zombie very easily. Well, more easily before it got right on top of the guy. But she accidentally shoots the survivor, which leads to some complications for them.
Yes, it does. I guess, and apparently this scene in the mine was one of the most difficult to shoot and to choreograph and to just with all the extras and
Oh, there's a ton of moving parts. Yeah,
yeah, so this one was
it's kind
apparently
of
one of the
self-inflicted wound though. Like
It
they
is.
they have this zombie herd that's like the main antagonist for most of
Yeah,
the film. It in this case they come from every direction when they arrive. Like I
right.
don't that never feels very believable to me when they would just they're a herd. Like let them come as in one group and they'll still probably overrun everybody, but they I
Right.
think for the visuals they have them come from every direction.
Yeah, so I think that this one was probably, they said, was the most challenging piece of it to shoot for sure. And I get that. And again, self-inflicted for also, because I think there were different ways that you could do this. I think that this is one of the areas where, um, you know, it this scene, although it got to what we needed to do here, felt a little draggy and unclear. Clearly, their friends have been attacked by ferals, and they're being kind of insane with Abigail, and and when then we see the couple in the back, and one's clearly pregnant, and we get our first sort of intro to these characters, and it just feels these are not people that aren't aware that there are ferals running around. And given the fact that their friends have just been attacked, they obviously are going to be nearby. And this felt like a lot of artificial, inorganic, like inauthentic tension building. Does that make sense? Like drama for drama's sake, or just to like move the plot along. So this
It's
part
yeah. To me,
felt
it's like
very
it's that
forced.
trope of two
Yeah,
groups of survivors meet and they're gonna have to have a standoff first before they do
right,
anything, even though there is no time, and they're not willing to listen to the warnings that
right,
Cassius and Abigail have to give them. And
right,
it makes sense. Like, frankly, Cassius and Abigail probably wouldn't have gotten away because the herd is all around them by the time this conversation's even happening.
right.
You know,
Um, so yeah, this is, but this was like the event that brings our the four main people together. So Cassius and Abigail, are, they're not like, there's always like a sympathetic thing because we see that Megan, is it Megan? Yes.
yeah.
Is like, oh, she's only a child, and her husband is kind of like telling her to stay out of it. So so this brings this little group together. But it just didn't make total sense to me. I do like their sort of close getaways, so there's always like a feral trying to hang on to whatever vehicle they're trying to get away in. And this is one of them where somebody's like on the roof, right? And he gets like shoved off. So, um, this is, but this unites them together as a group. And then when they regroup, they just have very different ideas about what they're going to be doing. And I think that this is sort of the interesting thing that we see, which is that Cassius and Abigail have made a decision not to try to find another colony or group of people to live with or a community.
Well,
They're,
Cassius has made that decision,
well,
right?
Cassius, but Abigail is somewhat in line with this because I think
She's
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 tired
on
of.
board with that idea until she sees a colony or until she like
True.
is around more people, and
Yeah.
then it's obvious that as a teenager, as
Yeah.
this is not unexpected, she wants to be around people.
Yeah, and Megan and David kind of give a little bit of a flavor of that. She seems to definitely like to be around them, and she allies herself, at least in trying to help them get to the colony, and that may be through um, her own desires to like see more people. But I do think that the thing that they don't like is that they have to just keep wandering and wandering. Um, and later on, as this story unfolds, Cassius basically says, part of why we have been out here and doing this is because the colonies and the communities are a target. If you if you basically stay in one place, eventually you're going to get overrun by the ferals. And so I thought that that was kind of an interesting thing in terms of the decisions that they've made, even though it's a difficult and lonely existence.
So one of the frustrating things about their getaway with David and Megan before we get to like more of their conversation is that their vehicle breaks down within feels like 30 seconds of them getting away.
Yeah,
Like this happens one time too many in this film.
many,
They
many
first no,
times.
every first it happens with this vehicle and then it happens again later with the plane. But the fact that they do that twice where they just can't get away from this one group of zombies,
Right.
and that is a little bit frustrating. And I think, they needed this car to get away from the quarry. That has to happen. Otherwise, there's no realistic way that they're getting away from the zombies initially. And then the plane is a really nice tie-in to her dad, who's a pilot. So,
Right.
like, I can see why they didn't want to cut either of them, but they're too similar.
They're too similar, and they do this quite a bit, actually, not just with the vehicles, but with themes. So, you have Megan with Cassius in two separate scenes, obviously one with more weight than the other, but making him promise to take care of the baby. And seems to be, I get why they do this, but you don't need to do that scene twice.
Why is it like Megan, in theory, doesn't know that David's bitten at this point in the film, but she's
I
not asking him to take care of the baby.
Well, this is the thing. I think she might suspect or in
I
on
don't know.
some
She
level
seems pretty
knows.
surprised when it comes out later.
But I also think that um they're, you know, they're living in a world where things can change really quickly. So I think she's just looking for people to help take care of them. She also may mean taking care of David too.
Mm.
But agree that also felt like a weird point without her knowing that he was bitten. However, just even the reality when Cassius is talking about the fact that he had to kill Abigail's mother, you can see that that really gives her a moment, which makes sense because it's, you know, pretty dangerous and terrifying world, and she's having this baby. And even in them getting around, I mean, that is actually one thing that there is one part where honestly, it made me laugh loud because they're like running out of the house, and Abigail's helping Megan along, and Megan's like, "My water broke," and the face that Abigail makes is like, "Oh, really? This now?" And it's just like kind of dragging
She
her
does all
along.
she does is just like
Yeah.
try to pull her along. Yeah.
But it's, even just the difficulty in sort of getting around in the vulnerability, the vulnerable state that she's in. I think, that conversation makes sort of sense to me, though it made much more sense later. Although I don't think she,
Doesn't she only ask him when they get to the train yard after the plane
yeah,
crash? After the
yeah.
plane crash is when she asks him to take care of
Hmm.
her baby. So there's, yeah, that's like pretty far into the film. They've been together for 2 days, which
Hmm.
feels like an eternity in the zombie apocalypse. First, they have to spend the night at the at this like ancient apartment building that Cassius, as they're approaching it, is like, that's the elementary school. So the Jackson house is right here. I'm like, what? Okay. I'm glad that you're trying to like make this seem like it's not a 50-year-old ruin, but that's what it is. Um, when you look at the scene, I mean, there's some stuff that happens at that apartment building. One is Cassius blames Abigail for all of their misfortune because of her taking that shot and making bad decisions that have led to them losing their seed collection and, putting them back weeks in terms of their plan to go to the island and the farm. So it's like there's a nice piece of there's some room there for his character to get better than what like be a better version of the guy he's being right now. And we also see that she is chafing under his leadership a little bit. Because she spends the night just up on the roof on watch. And then when the zombies appear the next morning, we can see some of that. These are these actors doing their own stunts because part of it involves zombies chasing Abigail Luca Pap up a flight of stairs that have no guardrail and just have a hole down the middle. Like it's a rectangular set of stairs that go up an apartment building.
Yep.
And you could quite easily take a
Fall.
bad step and fall down the middle of them. And you can watch her hugging the wall and trying to
Yep.
move as fast as she can. And she looks terrified. And I think it's because she's actually scared as a human
She
being.
she might be, and I actually was thinking that watching this sequence, and I was like, "Oh, this could go so badly in real life, right?"
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure they had stunt coordinators and things like that, but
Yeah,
I
but
actually, yeah, I know, but it was very low, like shoestring budget, right? And so
hmm
I was like, "Yes, hug that wall." Like I was actually worried about her.
like the
And
stunt guy behind her, who's probably much, yeah, he like jumps out of a 3-story window later. He's a
Mhm.
stunt guy. He's jumping around like a gazelle, and she is clearly like slinking as fast as she can up the outside of the staircase. But yeah, I quite enjoyed that scene. But then basically what that leads to is our four heroes escape from this apartment building and they put up a claymore mine to slow down the zombie herd, which when they arrive, but they're on foot and they have like, I don't know, a couple hours lead on these on the zombie herd at this point. We've also had a few shots at this point. We know that there's like an alpha style zombie leading this pack.
Yeah.
And I'll just say it right here. It doesn't look anything like the guy we saw in the video
No,
call
it
with
does not. No,
like
it
he
does
that
not.
guy had hair. This guy's bald. That
Hmm.
guy did not look like he was built like a shit brick house. This guy does.
Yep.
A shit,
Um,
nope, other way around. Brick shit house.
but it is the same guy, right?
I don't think it's the same actor. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe that guy,
I
like the
think
video
that's
call, like you said, it was choppy. You couldn't really tell, but maybe.
I think that's why they made it so weird, so that you wouldn't be able to tell it was
The
him.
only thing we know that we can tell that it's him is because he's wearing a bracelet that he points out on the
Right.
video call.
Right.
Otherwise, they could have just found a guy who vaguely looks like the one from the from the video call, except that they shaved his head and then he went to the gym for like 3 years.
Well, maybe.
Because he's
Uh,
not wearing the same like pilot outfit that he was wearing in the video call either.
I guess, but he could have changed between then. I mean, he had to do what he had to do to survive, right?
Yeah. He sure apparently did, but it failed.
Yep.
Or that guy just put his Abigail bracelet on the wrist of a mega zombie before he died.
Maybe. He's like, you look like you should have this bracelet. It's my lucky bracelet. Go forth into the wild.
I mean, that is like the end of the movie revelation is that the alpha is Abigail's dad. I kept thinking he would show up
I
as an
did
alive
too.
person.
I did too. And I was like, oh, all right. I see what you did there.
I mean, I don't hate it. I think it's pretty cool as a twist. You can't have two father figures,
Nope.
right? Not in this not in this
In this
film.
scenario, and Abigail has to choose. You can't have
She
Cass
literally has to choose.
you can't have Cassius um basically take out her entire family, right?
That's so true. I'm sure Cassius is grateful for how the movie ends on that level, because clearly he was been carrying some weight around about how he had to shoot her mom and brother
Mm,
10 years ago. Um, but so they, on foot, they find a wheelchair in the back of a car. We have a shot of a family of survivors who avoid interacting with them. And then we have a scene of that family of survivors, two children, all being killed by zombies. The children
yeah.
is tasteful for the most part, but there are shots of like zombies chasing children around, which is always pretty triggering for me. But it's not they don't dwell on it too much. But we just see this family like kind of ragged looking, definitely no Cassius among them, no beefy security looking guy. It's like a guy with a piece of wood is the dad who's trying to protect his family and fails miserably because there's no getting away from this herd of zombies that shows up. And when we're seeing the scenes of them die, somebody's talking about how hard it is to keep people alive, right? Isn't that, am I
Yep.
remembering that right?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's a bit on the nose, but I also felt like that sequence was pretty effective just to show, these people have survived for 10 years and they're all getting destroyed in the blink of an eye. But they didn't really look like they'd be able to defend themselves either.
Yeah.
Like the guy has a like a 2x4. Not enough. Certainly not enough. Um, and so from here they find the wheelchair. They put Megan in the wheelchair and they wheel her to this airport. This is another point of contention. Abigail wants to go to the airport. I forget where Cassius wants to go. I think he wants to just go away. Like he doesn't want to go to the airport because there's only one road in.
Yeah. I
I,
don't know why roads matter
they're
at this
not like
point.
restricted to roads except for the wheelchair potentially, but I don't even think they had her on
Yeah.
wheels at that point. But I
Yeah.
don't know that he had a better plan. Do you remember what his alternative plan was?
No, not
It,
really. It's and
it,
I think he maybe to me it would make more sense if going to the airport is then, just this really open, exposed area, which that would make sense versus just one road in. But anyway, I do like the airport itself and that whole scene, and I do not think that it would be likely that the plane would be there, but
I mean,
um,
that bunker is no joke. The
the
hangar
hangar is
bunker.
that's pretty cool. I have
That's
to
some
say.
Soviet stuff right there. That's where they would keep their
Yep.
fighters in those
Yeah.
sorts of things. Those are like bomb proof.
Yeah.
But he's keeping his little Cessna in there apparently, and it's in perfect shape, except covered in leaves.
Yep. I did like that, there was photos of Abigail and that this place has a
Why didn't
memory
she
for
take
her.
one? Like she picks
I
up
don't
that
know.
photo, spends a moment looking at it, and then puts it back on the wall.
Because she still has that one. I think that was one of the ones in her bag
Maybe.
later. But no, and I like that this is something of intense memory for her. Like this is like a place where she was as a kid with her dad. And
So yeah, again, when she's 6, right? Like when
yeah,
10 years ago, when she's barely not a toddler anymore, and she's like, "Yeah, I remember coming here with my dad. I remember that the airport is really close to here." You know who has very bad sense of direction or where they are in the world is children that age. So I find that quite far-fetched that she was like, "Oh yes, I recognize this place and its proximity to an airport where I used to come with my dad sometimes." And how to open the hangar door, like because what 6 year old learns the intricacies of this
yep.
mechanism. But hey, you know,
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's something that he let her do, and so it's sort of like muscle memory.
I send my 12-year-old kid to his friend's house. Actually, he was 11 when I did this, and he absolutely got lost. It was 4 blocks. And he goes off in the wrong direction, takes a left instead of a right. Like maybe this is just my kid. Maybe I'm just dunking on myself here, but I just don't think kids know how to get from A to B.
I don't know. We used to run around like wild children, and I could see us doing that kind of thing.
Maybe,
Difference between a New England up, no, I'm kidding. More difference between the upbringings of your, I think,
perhaps.
maybe. Um, but
To be fair, he's got it figured out now. Like yeah, okay. I'm trying not to make it sound like my kid doesn't know how to get around. He has figured it out, but at that point, no, he had not.
well, like, and then I will say I did love this particular set. Like, it was kind of cool seeing this abandoned airfield. I liked the air traffic control tower, the lookout tower. That was kind of fun. Where you go up in those big windows, or
Yeah,
those,
Cassius is up there taking a nap.
um, you
The
know,
the idea that David is able to fix this plane is a little bit absurd. I mean, they've made him
he
handy.
he's smart. That's all they say. They don't even, like,
It's pretty weird that like Abigail and Cassius are carrying all these weapons, and Megan and David they get given a handgun in this scene, but they
mm,
basically don't have any weapons at all.
no.
Um, okay. I mean, I guess David's weapon is his mind. But he fixes this plane in 5 minutes, and it starts on the first try, and they take off. And I'm like, this girl, because Abigail's the pilot, again, just kind of like extrapolating out on this absurdity that this 6-year-old girl apparently was able to operate an aircraft
Yep.
before the zombie apocalypse. So she's the pilot, and as soon as it takes off, the plane starts to like smoke the engine, and they what's funny to me about this is they have some altitude, a few hundred feet of altitude, and they have speed, but and it makes sense because she is a 16-year-old girl, but they don't try to like land it on a road. They just fly into a tree.
Yes. Yeah.
And they should all be dead. Like that should be the end of the film. Is
No, they
oh,
would
what a
not.
tragic ending to this tale of zombie survival when the 4 people fly into a tree.
And that could have been a suitable ending. Um,
That would have been about the halfway point. There'll be like an hour and 10-minute long movie if they just died in the tree. Like, oh, shame.
but instead they go for this whole other um storyline
Well,
of
this is the whole act, multiple act
ugh,
structure of how they put these things together. Like wild to me that I don't know that any of them had like crash seats or seat belts, but they all get up and walk away from this plane crash, including the 35-week pregnant woman.
mhm.
And that's then they sleep at the train station that night. David thinks about killing himself, but doesn't go through with it. And we're like, oh, dude, you're gonna be a huge liability. Um, I was quite pleased, like I've already said, with his arc. I thought that they gave him a very nice exit from the show or
They
movie.
did. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
Um, but I also think that they would have cottoned on to
Yeah, dude,
the
Cassius
fact
would
that
have
he
known about
was
this.
all of them would because they've seen it before, and especially Cassius when we find out later that he's watched people get infected and die. Like, of course, like especially like, and even if they didn't now, when David has like he's just looking weird. Um,
The sunglasses on.
no, but before when, he and Cassius and he's like, "Oh, I twisted my ankle." I feel like Cassius would have absolutely been like, "Let me see your
Yeah,
leg,"
show me your ankle immediately. Yeah.
So, but anyway, he didn't do that, and instead we have this really interesting, cool little train set, which the little like train cars and that whole set was kind of fun. But then, they continue on and they're trying to get to, Cassius agrees to take them to the colony and, you know, along the way they run into a mad scientist. And this thing was very like this whole like third act was just really jammed in to me, and I didn't love the way this went. It just felt like they were trying to add like way too much at the last
I
moment.
feel like this is a natural sort of place where this film, this plot would break down. They want to make give you a left turn out of like, oh, we're just running from this zombie horde until we are able to defeat them because we arrive at Rivertown or whatever the place is called, Knight's Landing. I get it. Like you don't want to have you want to have the film have a crescendo of an ending, not just like a wah wah. The zombies can't follow them anymore. So
Right.
they need something to do that. And so they
Yeah.
come up with this conceit of the mad scientist. And I don't hate it. It just feels like a different kind of film.
Yeah. I mean, the one like I do like the whole thing where they get there and I mean they're trying to put you at your ease and he's a little weird generally and but the hot showers, can you imagine how amazing that would be if you hadn't had a hot shower in a long time?
Yeah,
And
I'm not sure that I
David,
needed to spend that hot shower with the 16-year-old girl.
no, that was the part where I was like, why are they doing this? We
There are
don't even
so many adult characters who could have been having this shower.
we don't need to do this. Definitely not. That was the point actually where I thought whatever was going to happen in this house was going to be closer to 28 days later at the military base. I was like, oh no, like the minute they were showing this, I was like, no, this is good. Please don't go there. But they didn't do that, thankfully. Instead, he just drugs them all and wants to, like control zombie David or infected David and sort of I'm not sure exactly what his plan was, but his the mad scientist zombified wife was part of the plot.
It felt like he was just trying to set up a cage match, but didn't really hadn't thought it through.
He had not. He didn't really plan this out well. And I do like the fact that David is still like able, he still has some of his faculties and he's using the like minimum amount of control the minimal amount of control he has to free Cass and get them out of there. So I did like how his arc starts to be just much more heroic here, even though it's a bit of a tragic arc. So I thought I did like that. And then we don't have to like, we don't have to sit there and we do get some monologuing from the mad scientist just about how humans deserve it, how life is important, etc., and that they're evolving into this.
Yeah.
What's so
Meanwhile, all of our heroes are happily drinking the drink that he gave them.
yeah, that also I was like, oh, that's definitely drugged. Like I was like, this is no way. There's no way
We've
that
just seen this movie too many
yes,
times, you
too
know.
many times.
But yeah,
But
I like you say David's arc here turns for the heroic, and I really appreciated that because I was
yeah,
feeling
yeah.
kind of down about his hiding his injury. He's been confronted now by Cassius about it. Cassius still is like, give me a reason why I shouldn't shoot you right now, and he doesn't give him more reason, and Cassius doesn't shoot him, and I'm just like, well, Cassius, I feel like I'm, you know, I was going to be pretty annoyed at Cassius for just letting him keep living. It doesn't feel like this world has much wiggle room for these sorts of decisions, you know? Yeah, but then so when they escape, they're in yet another vehicle. They get about, I guess this is the third time this happens. At least the vehicle doesn't break down, but then they're driving at night. There's a tree across the road, so they have to get out of the vehicle, but they have not put that much room between themselves and the zombie herd who have shown up again in the night. And when they were driving this Land Rover through the woods, this is just another nod to them using their own actors as stunt people. Like there's a light on inside their Land Rover, so you can see that they're all in there.
Yep.
I felt like it was unnecessary to do that, but I think it was the same lighting they were using for their interior shots inside the car, and then they just left that light in there when they were driving, and you were seeing it from the exterior. It was just a weird choice. Like if I'm driving at night, I don't want a light on inside my car because it makes it
Yeah.
harder to see outside.
It
But they
was
have
really odd.
yeah, they have a lot of light inside there. But yeah, so they only get, I don't know, like half a mile, and then they have to get out of the car again with zombies right on their heels. But then luckily they're at the colony, this shipwreck colony they've been trying to get to since they heard about it from David and Megan. And we are introduced to the colony in a pretty empathetic way. Like the guards are teens, but who are who like voluntarily against the wishes of their superior start shooting the zombies and save our heroes. But during this scene, also we have David get his send off and the first of several neck snapping scenes, which I thought, God, and those aren't done by stunt people. It's just like Jesus, these look like they're potentially very dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, where the big zombie comes up, he does this to a few people in
Hmm.
this third act, and so the guy playing David, Declan Hannigan, has to convincingly get his
Yep.
neck snapped. And maybe there's like an easy way to do that that I don't understand, but it just feels like you could accidentally break somebody's
Oh
neck or,
yeah.
you know,
It actually looked pretty convincing, and I thought I was like, oh man, I hope Declan was in on this and doing okay.
had
You know,
been
like
limbering up
yeah,
off stage.
yeah,
Yeah. But he goes down after smoking a few puffs of his joint that he'd been keeping. He wastes Cassius's suicide bullet that he tosses him on, well, not wastes it. He saves Abigail by shooting a zombie. But
yep.
he chooses to save her instead of shoot himself and then goes out fighting. Really good exit for him, like
It
we've
was a
said.
good exit for sure. And then we get to the boat scene, and
The boat scene is good, I think. Yeah, it's good. But you've got well, it has some weird stuff, but mostly what it has is a bunch of teenage characters, which I think is helpful for the Abigail storyline.
and some really bad actors. So it's like
Yeah,
they,
the arm wrestling scene is
oh
pretty laughably bad.
yes,
Those
and
aren't actors. I think those are just guys
yeah.
from the local bar.
And Abigail's love interest, and our little nanny of death woman who just basically keeps dropping bad news on Cassius. Like, sorry, Megan's gonna die within 2 hours, and she keeps wanting to take the baby almost in such a way that I was like, is she gonna do something bad with this baby? I don't know what was going on with her, but that was a really odd decision to make, an odd choice to make. I just don't know that that was necessary, but these sets, I suspect this must have been really difficult to film on. Boat scenes always are, and um, so I also think, I it felt like a pretty depressing community to be living there. It did not seem very happy. So really worn down. And then everything's wired to explode, which, nothing could go wrong with that,
Yeah.
not
And
even
the remote control is just hanging down in there in the
right,
basement with
right.
no sign like that says
Nobody,
don't touch this.
nobody, nobody watching out, right? Like it just feels like a little weird. So,
But so we what we get is a party scene though for the kids while the old men are arm wrestling and then fighting. Uh, there we have this like scene that I think is this cathartic thing for Abigail to get, which is there's a boy who invites her to a party. They have a party. Then it gets weird because he wanders off with some other girl who then disappears. And so when she finds him, then he's giving her the exposition about the tunnel, the escape tunnel, and the wired to explode part. And the party then kind of ends, but not before our mad scientist shows up with his glove of zombie control and kind of launches his plan to attack the boat the next morning. But this was our supermarket scene, if you will. The fact that it happens in the third act makes you think it's not as much of a release as your typical supermarket scene. But
right.
yeah, like it's still one of those kinds of things.
Well, and it like hits home the fact that, she's been lonely and she's only been hanging out with Cass, and these are people of her own age, and she gets to have this little community, even if she does decide to, and I also like how they switch out her, combat outfit, and they add a party color. So now she has a red tank top on over the black tank top. So you can tell she's ready. She's ready to
She's
party.
ready to party.
But no, and I liked that idea that she hasn't had this, and that release is great, and the fact that they're kids still being kids. is also like a nice touch. But
Yeah, the fact that there's so many teens on this boat or young people also gives you a good feeling. It's also a lot of young women,
yep,
and not in like a scary way. They appear to be dressed normally. They are doing chores or just kind of sitting around eavesdropping when Cassius and Abigail have an argument. But
right.
so Abigail is saying, "I want to stay here. This place is great. It's just heaven." And he's like, "It's they're just people. It's gonna suck.
Hmm.
You know, it always starts like this." And so they are kind of on the outs at the beginning of the action here, which is a good place for them to do this for the story. I like the fact that they did this. It worked pretty well for how then the action unfolds, and Abigail and Cassius have to be there for each other
Yep.
in another way. But like, so he's trying to say, "Hey, do you see how those guys were looking at you?" And she's like, "Whatever, I can take care of myself." And I'm like, those guys were just kids, and
Yep.
there's a whole bunch of teenage girls on this boat. Like, there's nothing scary or freaky about it. If we'd walked onto this boat and it was just the arm wrestling scene, I'm sure everybody would have been like, "Nope, let's go. This is bad."
Yep.
Mad Scientist shows up and has taken over the herd.
Yes, he has. And his wife's kind of leading it too, so that's good because he still cares about her enough to have her involved.
I felt like I didn't see her again after that first night scene.
Oh no, she's there. She's there in the crowd.
Well, it's kind of predictable how because he is fond of monologuing because he is an evil a big bad.
Hmm.
His love of the monologue leads to his undoing, even though he has absolutely the upper hand. Most of the people on the boat, or a lot of them, there's still a ton of them left alive by the end of the movie, seem to get eaten. They've fallen prey to the cardinal sin of overindulgence the night before and are not getting up very quickly as the zombies come on board. And and then Cassius is able to break the glove of zombie control, but just by hitting it against the wall one time. And then they can slip away, get into the tunnel, bing bang boom. Tunnels get blown up by the boyfriend, but then we're not quite done because zombie dad shows up. I guess we've kind of already covered how this goes. She makes the choice to shoot zombie dad instead of shooting Cassius, and we she redeems herself as being a good shot finally because she doesn't shoot him instead of the zombie.
Yes, indeed. And
Perfect ending. I mean, and then she it implies that they're all going to go to the island together, and that's great.
yeah, and they're gonna have a little like tribe, and everybody, including the weird nanny, midwife, nurse, um, they can help take care of baby Hope. It'll be great.
It
It's
will be.
exciting.
It will be great. I don't know that this island looks super habitable. It's pretty steep.
Yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of areas that you could actually grow, that you would be agriculturally um, a positive place to start a farm. But but we're gonna leave them there because they don't give you too many details. It's just like a very quick cut of the island, and then it's like they lived happily ever after. And they didn't do an after credits that I saw similar to Dawn of the Dead, the remake. So hopefully they're happy living on the island, watching the ocean because when you're trying to grow crops for yourself, you have a lot of leisure time for sure.
For sure. He just wants to sit on the beach, does Cassius. I mean, they don't have a boat left. They just blew them all up. They don't have any seeds. They are 30 or 40 people, most of them unarmed.
Mhm.
But, I'm sure that they got there just fine. No problem. Because where there's a will, there's a way. Maybe Abby could fly them there.
I don't know that they should get into any more vehicles. Just say.
No, no. But that's Silent Zone from 2025. I don't know. It was pretty entertaining.
Yeah. I mean, there were a lot, it was a low budget zombie film. I liked the sets. I think it could have been a lot tighter and definitely did not need to be 2 hours long. Um, but I always, I like the silliness and the campiness of things. And it isn't full camp. It's just low budget horror film, but it was definitely entertaining. I just think it did not need to be 2 hours long for sure.
Hmm.
It could have used an editor. So that's my only sort of like drawback for this one.
So that was Silent Zone. What was silent or zone about it?
That was unclear. I don't know that there was anything that there was a silent zone. I don't know where the name came from.
Interesting choice. I wonder if they just were like, focus groups like the name Silent Zone. Has nothing to do with the film. Okay. So that was Silent Zone. Next time, we might take just a smidge of a break from, well, we don't know, maybe there are zombies, but we are going to be a little more witchy when we next get together and for the next little bit as we have a look at Mayfair Witches season 2.
Yes, indeed. And until then, thanks for listening. Bye bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Reanimated Podcast. If you want to get in touch with us, please email us at reanimatedpodcast@gmail.com. You can find the rest of our episodes online at reanimated.podbean.com. And you can often find us on Discord at the Brain Munchers Zombie Collective with a bunch of other zombie fans. Our intro and outro music is produced and recorded by Colin Diaz. Thanks for listening and come on back for more zombie content from Reanimated Podcast.